Kidnapped, walking the scene with you in old flicks from the 90s. So keen, the VHS Club, they're the talk of the town. Breaking it down, spreading nostalgia all around. Moving and grooving to the synth-pop sound. Their insight is so fresh, painting pictures profound. From Pulp Fiction to Clueless, they know it all. The genuine love for movies stands tall. Unfolding memories on that VHS screen, talking about classics like you've never seen. Katie with Biff, and Sean, Matt with that win. Together they make the VHS Club legit.
Great Scott! Great Scott, Nat! I'm very excited for this episode because this is like, I don't know, it feels like everyone's favorite movie to some extent, or favorite movies, and everyone has a favorite of these movies, and this has a fandom. This is a fandom series, so we will try to do it justice. People whose movie this is your movie. Like, this is not my movie, but I do love this movie. So we're talking Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3 tonight. If you are just joining us,
I'm so happy we're doing the trilogy because I'm like, I feel like, and looking at it, I'm like, they definitely like, did they film 1 and 2 at the same time? Because they only came out like barely a year apart.
That's a really good question, actually. I didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe while we're chatting, Paul can.
I
live
definitely
fact
think
check.
there's
I
a
didn't see
lot
that.
of scenes that were filmed and used throughout the first 2 movies, but
Yeah.
that were filmed probably at one time. In the third one, you could see they are a little bit older, but
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, and of course, typical Katie, I don't
Yeah.
have my notes in front of me, but I do think if I remember correctly, the first two were released pretty close by each other, and then the third
year
one was
apart.
a few
Yeah.
years later. So
I think it was like 80. Was it
85 for the first one.
85,
I know that.
86, and then 90? The last one was in 90.
85, because I was like, oh, it's the 30th
Well, it
year
takes
anniversary.
place in 85.
And I was like, oh,
right.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
That's bad math. It's older. I'm older.
30-year anniversary.
Not the 30th anniversary. But we'll pretend. We'll pretend. Yeah, it takes place in 85, but it was also released in 85. So that is the first one. Actually, so
the second one was a year later.
Since you kicked us off there, I want to start by saying that so if you're joining us live, if you're hanging out in our live studio audience, please definitely drop in the comments which is your favorite of those movies and why, because we would love to talk about that and share your feelings. And if you're watching or listening later, you missed it, you have to join us live most Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube to get your votes in. I wanted to kick off by talking about the continuity between this trilogy, because I like love or hate, have feels about sequels, and that, and whether or not you like the sequels better than the first or don't like them at all or whatever you feel. I think this trilogy,
the trilogy is done right. And honestly, like, of all if you say the word trilogy, I guarantee people are thinking of ones that work.
Yeah. So
it's
this one,
they're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. I think this one really nailed it as far as continuity goes.
Yes.
I really it pulls the thread all the way through all 3 movies. Not only is it the same, largely with, very few exceptions, it's the same cast. There are like the similar tropes, but also like similar plot devices throughout all of them.
Yeah.
Like it centers around like the clock tower, the time machine. Like there are elements that pull all the way
manure.
through. The manure, right? Like that I don't think most trilogies do well unless they were planned out as a trilogy, which often they don't get that
Obviously,
opportunity
this
to
was
do.
too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
And
love
actually,
that
come
about
to think
watching all
of it,
three.
there was a lot of scenes. So at the end of the second movie, there's an introduction to the third movie, and there's a lot of scenes filmed. And I don't know if that's because I caught some like DVD version.
I was
I
wondering
definitely
that too.
caught the
Like, was that the
version
theater?
where the
Yeah.
I don't remember. But I definitely in the first movie, there's some Doc. So Doc steals some plutonium from some bad people, and the bad guy's car um, was different. Like I saw a different edit where it's like a cute little VW van, where instead of like a
That's what
brown
Terrell
car.
was saying. Yeah, I didn't. I as you
Yeah,
know, I
I
have
remember
no
I'm like the
memory.
car
So
looked more
yeah.
like nondescript villainous in the original. I do have this on VHS somewhere. So so I've seen it quite a few times that I remember that. The first one. To give a synopsis of the plot,
Yeah. What's
there
the
is
plot, Max?
a high school boy,
Yep.
Marty McFly, who seems to be a friend apprentice, kind of just helps a guy out, like sort of after school job ish. Um, this older guy, Doc, um, he's a mad scientist. Though not so mad because one of his inventions finally works. He invents a time machine, and they go back in time and then realize the consequence of changing certain actions and how they need to have a time continuum and how they need to respect time. If they're dropping into the past or the future, they need to respect the timeline and up because it can have very devastating effects. Also, at the same time, it's kind of about Marty having his sort of like teenage coming of age moment where he gets called chicken, like, "Hey, are you chicken?" Like it was a good phrase, especially in the 80s, for people to like if bullies are picking on you and they're like, "Oh, let's go fight out in the like out back," it's be like, "What, you don't want to? You're chicken." And that comes across as very problematic for him and seems to get him into a lot of trouble in all three of the movies. And we realize in the first movie, it doesn't seem like a big deal. It seems like he's kind of brave and
It's
hero
actually not
type guy.
mentioned. I looked it up because I was like, "Oh, is this
He's
actually
not
in all
mentioned as
three?"
a
It's
chicken.
not mentioned at all in the first movie. It's only a plot device
That's
in
true.
2 and 3, which is a
And
little
the
weird.
thing is,
but it seems to
well,
work.
because so the thing is, in the second movie, he goes back into the first movie.
Mhm.
So,
It's hard to differentiate when you're watching them all back to back.
well, we watched them all exactly. We watched them in a row basically this
Yeah.
week. But Marty. So 19, we'll say not necessarily in each movie. 1985 Marty, who goes back to 1955.
Yep.
Gets called a chicken, but only after he had gone to
2015.
20.
Yeah.
I was going
15.
to say, yeah, 21.5, Natalie. I
Yes.
lived 2015.
Yes, 21.5. Tell us more.
It was mediocre. No hoverboards.
No hoverboards.
Anyways,
no.
but so in the first movie, Marty goes from 85 to 55. In
Yep.
the second movie, Marty and Doc they go back to 85. So they fix everything in 55, back to 85. But then they have to go to 2015 to pick up Doc's dog, of all things, and to fix a little situation with Marty's future children.
Yep.
They go back to do that, but when they do that, they realize that they have to go back to 1955, in which Marty gets called a chicken.
Yes.
Problems happen. So then he goes back to 85, gets called a chicken, problems happen. So and then he goes back to
1885.
1885, and then remembers what happened both in 55 and 2015, where he gets called a chicken and it became super problematic, and finally heeded Doc's advice that maybe you shouldn't be so reactionary. And which at first I'm like, why would somebody take that so seriously? But I'm like, he is a teenage boy in high school,
Yeah.
and that's pretty reasonable. Not even as a boy, as a teenager, if somebody goads you like that,
Yeah.
like you're learning how to feel your emotions.
Yeah.
Like
You're feeling your
it's
feels.
gonna piss you off, or it's either gonna make you cry or make you hit back, you know? So like
Absolutely.
as a teenager, I think he handled it pretty well. Though and it's funny because by the end of the trilogy, it was basically he was gone for like an hour.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah, I was trying
And
to do
then-
some of that math. Like, how long was he
oh, no,
actually
he-
gone for? Because Jennifer keeps getting like
Technically, he was
dragged along
gone
and left places.
Technically, in the first movie, he was gone. He went to go meet Doc at 1:30 a.m.
Yeah.
on like a Friday night. It was Friday night. And then when they finally get back after fixing everything, he goes back 5 minutes earlier, or no, 15 minutes earlier. So he basically was gone for negative 15 minutes. And then he sleeps through the night. He sleeps in that morning. He's going to go out of town with Jennifer for a nice little, date weekend at the cottage at the lake. But then Doc absconds them to 2015. But then they come back at exactly the same time they left. And then he goes back to the past.
Yeah.
And comes back at exactly the same time. So he was gone 0 minutes.
Yeah.
The second and third time.
Oh, so
Oh my gosh.
it looks
Guys,
like-
my brain is hurting.
Yeah, my brain.
Is
There's
the
a lot of
math
math.
mathing
Friends.
here?
It's a lot of math. We were wrong. This just in. Josh said Back to the Future 2 and 3 were the ones that were released a year apart. So actually, part 2 was released in '89 and part 3 in 1990. So which then actually was my original question that I forgot I was going to ask you, Nat, which is. So the end of part 1 ends with like a to be continued kind of like incredible vibe. And then they had to wait from 1985 to 1989 for the second one. I would have been so cheesed. I don't remember when I originally saw this, but wow, that would have really sucked.
I feel like we probably watched the first one when the second one came out.
Yeah, because so I was
from our
only,
age.
Yeah,
Like
I
we
was
were
2
little
when the first one came out in theater. So I definitely did not see the first one in theaters.
Oh, we didn't. Yeah, I didn't see the first one. I mean, my dad took me to see Return of the Jedi like when I was 8 months old, but he did not take me to see this when I was whatever 3.
I honestly think that if I'm remembering correctly, and this actually answers early my the question, which is your favorite of the movies. So my favorite of the movies, don't come at me anyone, is part 3. But I think honestly a lot of that is because Westerns just connect me with my dad, and I loved watching this with my dad, and I love the Western part of it, and I there's a lot of that I really liked. But I think if I look at the dates, like I probably watched part 3. Like part 3 was probably the one that I saw in the theater or very early in rentals, and then went and watched part 1 and 2 beforehand. So I was like likely immediately connected to it just because of my age as well. So, but I mean,
they
it holds up.
They do the
really
Western thing. They do the Western thing really
well.
Like they romanticize it. It's very nice.
Yeah,
and it's very palatable and very enjoyable. Rewatching them last week, I totally lied. I'm like, the second one's my favorite. I rewatched it. I'm like, no. I actually hate it. And I remember rewatching this a couple years back when we were in lockdown, and I remember hating it. I just like the clothes and the hoverboard.
Yeah.
Like I really wanted, that jacket, the climatized jacket, and the sneakers and the hoverboard. That's what I liked.
Yeah.
Like I didn't actually care for the second movie as much.
It's
so
funny.
I did like when he went back to 55. That was fun.
Yeah. I will say, so I actually remembered the reverse. So when we were preparing to watch these, I was like, I love 1 and 3, 2 I really don't like. But then when I rewatched it, I had like different feelings about 1. I still love 1, but there's feelings I
I
have
love
about 1.
1.
And
That
then
one's my favorite.
2, I was like, oh, this is actually like more fun than I thought it would be, because I enjoy seeing like what actually existed in 2015 versus what didn't. And then I did like you
That's
said, the
true.
costumes and the technology and whatever. And I like the second half of it. I'm not a big fan
Yes.
of like the Biff of it all. And so I like, and it just like,
No.
I don't know, the future is like
feel
sad,
like-
and I didn't like that. So.
I feel like Biff in all well,
2.
in the second and third movie,
He's not in
needed to
technically in the
be-
third. There's a
Well,
different
he
bad
is.
guy, but yeah, yeah. Tanner.
it's still
Yeah.
Biff. It's Mad Dog is
Yeah.
actually Biff.
Yeah.
They do mention that they're relatives,
Mhm.
but yeah, we really didn't need much Biff. I think we needed a lot less Biff. It was, to me, even when I was younger, I'm just like, he's too villainous because there are no consequences to his actions. He just gets foibled, usually with his car and a pile of manure. But I'm like, but then he gets out of it and has like this murderous rage. I was like, he needs therapy or permanent hospitalization or just jail, really.
Yeah, just jail.
I'm like,
Just
for every reason. Like, he did basically most things that you could do to get tossed in jail for a very long time.
True story.
Oh, he was too much of a bully, and I didn't like that. I didn't like him as a kid. It made me really uncomfortable. Still makes me uncomfortable. It makes me upset. Except for in the Western, in the third, when Marty stands up to Mad Dog, the
Yep.
Biff character or relative,
Mhm.
though everybody is like, thank you for standing up to him and how can we support you. But in the first 2, people are just like, oh, that's Biff.
I know. See, this is why I love the third. The third, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
the third delivers on every level for me. But
And
Paul,
I also have to say, I love Mary Steenburgen
Yeah.
in the third. She's such a good actress. She's so enjoyable. Her comedic timing is great. She plays the part perfectly, and I love her.
I want to catch up a couple of these comments because we have fans sharing their feelings. Paul says the only scene which appears in all 3 movies is Doc sliding down the clock tower on a cable before the clock is struck by lightning. Yeah, the continuity I think is really great in this movie. George is pointing out that the Twin Pine Mall's name changed to the Lone Pine Mall after Marty ran over one of the pine trees. I didn't catch that. That's fantastic. And Jake is saying the same thing. The name of the mall changed. Paul is pointing out that there are 32 visual effects shots in the entire film, which is really impressive given that there are some pretty great visual effects in this entire trilogy.
Yeah.
I mean, even just the idea of like the tires of the DeLorean flying and the flames coming up, like that, again, it would not have been digital. That would have been practical effects, which I think is pretty fantastic. Josh is saying that the Libyans vehicle was apparently a Volkswagen bus in the DVD. So something changed between the VHS and the DVD.
Yeah, it was changed for the DVD. I don't
Yeah.
know why. What was triggering about a brown car?
I don't know.
Unless there was when it came out on DVD, there was some sort of incident.
Maybe I did feel as though so I did not notice. It's been forever since I watched on VHS, and I did not watch on VHS this time around. But
No.
I did. I definitely noticed when it was like the Libyans and they were in this VW bus, and I was kind of like, oh, weird.
I was like,
weird
that's odd.
choice. Yeah. But I didn't.
I'm
I
like,
didn't think too
cute,
much about
want
it.
one.
I didn't think too much about it. Kimberly says that she's seen the movies. She wasn't a big fan of the third, so fair enough.
Yeah, I remember not liking the third as much, but now I like it more now. But the first is definitely my favorite, though it does have some awkward moments where, so Marty goes back and he bumps into his parents who are not dating yet and accidentally messes up their meet cute, like the moment where they meet, and that makes them end
And
up
that
being a
throws off
couple.
everything. Yeah.
So he's trying to fix it, but then his mom is like, "Oh wow, look at that Marty. He's such a dreamboat." He's like, "Oh my," he's like, "No." So it's really like it's awkward.
It's a
But
really
I think
weird.
they kind of play it well.
It's funny because you're
Ish.
right. It's a really weird storyline, and if you do any like research on the making of
Yeah.
this movie,
Well, I
it
mean,
was
I
there
guess
right
he
from the
looks like his
start.
dad, so
I
yeah.
guess, but I guess the original premise of this movie, like the original concept, was
Yeah.
that the creator of the movie was looking back through a yearbook of his dad's like high school yearbook, and was
Mhm.
wondering whether or not if he went back in time, if he would be friends with his dad. And so I guess like that was the
Okay.
original premise for this movie, was that idea. But the idea of like he would go back and his
And
mom would
have
like
his
have this crush
mom
on him
shove her tongue down
would be
his
part of it.
throat. Like
I want to ask
therapy,
this
kid.
of you,
Therapy.
Nat, of you and of the audience.
Yeah.
So I've now seen this movie a bajillion times. So
Yeah.
I watched it with I tried my best to watch it with like a different lens this time around. And so I kind of tried to ignore that part because I've always been like weird, but whatever.
It's yeah.
Yeah. But this time around, what I noticed, because I wasn't paying as much attention to that, was how unlikable his parents are. Like, why did we have to make them that awful? Like, his mom is like this, like completely vapid, like just loves to be around the boys, doesn't really care who she's with kind of
Yeah.
character. And his dad is like
Well,
sad and
her mom,
pathetic.
in all fairness, her mother hated Biff
Yeah.
and genuinely looked terrified when he would like try to manhandle her. And, like she looked genuinely terrified,
Yeah, but
which I wouldn't have noticed when I was younger
It's almost
as much.
It's a little bit too, and you were saying this. I mean, I guess they're supposed to be sort of
Yeah.
like caricatures, like all these characters, but like the moment where Marty gets hit by the car, which was supposed to have been his dad, and gets brought inside the house, she's just like all over him in like the creepiest
Yeah,
non-50s
it's a little
way.
that's a bit creepy.
Like I feel like 50s parents wouldn't have been like, yeah, we'll put this random strange man up in our daughter's bedroom and like let them be alone.
well, she
together.
wasn't supposed to be in there.
Yeah, I know.
That
but,
was
like,
mentioned.
It was a weird move.
But-
like maybe on the couch where everyone can see him, but sure.
I
And
don't
then-
know.
And then we were talking about this in a previous, I can't remember, Nat, if it was
Yeah.
one that you were here for or if it was one where you were out, but we were talking about the idea of like the trope of like teenage boys, I won't call them men, teenage boys look creepily looking through women's windows. And like the only reason he's in
A
the
jailable offense.
Yeah. The only reason he's like in the road is that he's like creepily stalking her, which then again, like also doesn't make him
Yeah.
a likable character. Like I know it's supposed to be like a
No.
trope, but I don't know. I was much more
Yeah, I think-
bothered by
I
that
think-
this time around than
I
the other
think
stuff.
putting it in I guess in historical context to even when it was made, stuff like that got chalked up to the whole boys will be boys
Yeah.
instead of recognizing it as maybe helping men and boys access, analyze, and act on emotions more appropriately.
Yeah.
You know, instead of teaching boys to be well-rounded human beings more so like we do now, because then it wasn't a thing, and
Yeah.
it would be like, oh, boys will be boys, locker room talk, all that, and it's like bad, like the patriarchy's failed you even though you're running it. Like
Yeah.
I think we're just not tolerant of that anymore because we know how damaging it is, not just for women. It's dangerous for women, but it's damaging for men. And so we have more of an understanding of that now. So it makes it harder to watch.
Yeah.
Now-
I don't know if I really like
in
fully noticed that
context-
at the time. And it was just obvious.
No,
to me this
because boys
Yeah.
got away with being pervy.
Yeah.
Like, and in certain areas, places, they still do. But
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk. So I think here are I think the best moments of
Mhm.
of the movie. So from my end, Doc and Marty's chemistry, which I think was like
Fantastic.
undeniable all the way through the movie, but definitely the first one
Yeah.
obviously set that up and built that. I mean, like We should talk a little bit about the fact that it's a DeLorean. So if you're watching this episode as a video episode, we put a fun fact at the beginning that it actually was supposed to be a refrigerator time machine. Like they like walked through the refrigerator, I guess. But they were
cool.
worried that kids would like climb inside fridges, which
Absolutely they would.
Absolutely would. So I
Yeah.
guess they ended up making it a DeLorean as a joke
Because it's completely inaccessible.
because the car was
to
about
everyone.
to go bankrupt and they like the car dealership was about to not dealership brand the DeLorean brand was about to go bankrupt, and so it was like this funny thing. And I want to share, if you're watching
Yeah,
on
they're
video,
probably like, sure, just use it, whatever, we're out.
if you're watching on video, I'm posting this up, but I'll read it out loud for anyone who's listening. It says, "Dear gentlemen, last week I had the opportunity to see a screening of Back to the Future in New York, and I want you to know that I think it was absolutely brilliant. I was particularly pleased that the DeLorean motor car was all but immortalized in this film, and I want to thank all those responsible for the outstanding job they did in presenting the DMC as the vehicle of the future. Thanks again for continuing my dream in such a positive fashion. Sincerely, John Z. DeLorean." And I just thought it was like absolutely incredible that because he's right. Like this movie really, like none of us had any idea or would have had any idea what the DeLorean was if it wasn't for this movie.
Not a clue.
Yeah. And it just made it awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I like that choice. And I do like that Doc had said, because Marty's like, a DeLorean? What do you mean, like a DeLorean? It's like a luxury sports vehicle, right? And he's like, well, if we're going to travel through time, it's got to be in style. Like, it was so random. Yeah, it was really cute.
So the DeLorean reveal, the enchantment under the sea dance, like 1955 vibes were really fun in this movie. And I think, I mean, honestly, like
the dressing up and the live band, the soda shop and the old fashioned movie theater, and it was really charming.
Yeah, and I think too, like so like this show is entirely obviously about nostalgia, and we talk a lot about like, the kind of generational divides between all the different generations. I think honestly a lot of what made this series so popular was that it literally like bridged the different generations.
Yeah.
So the idea of going from
gap.
like 55 to 85 to like thinking through what could possibly happen in 2015 and then back, I think it was a really
none of what's in the movie
fascinating concept. So yeah, I think it was a good one. Jake is calling out Johnny Be Good. Absolutely.
That was fantastic. I love when the guitarist who hurt his hand, so therefore Marty could play in front of a live audience, he starts playing Johnny Be Good, and this guy gets on the phone and he's like, hey, like, Chuck, it's your cousin, Marvin.
Yeah.
Your cousin Marvin Barry. He's like, you know that you're looking for a new sound? How about this? He holds up the receiver for him to hear the song. I'm like, that's amazing. That was really, really funny.
I love it. I'm going back in time to some of these comments. George says temporal mechanics makes my brain hurt too. And as Jake says, it's very heavy. This is very Doc, I know this is heavy. Absolutely true. Well, yeah, I think the enchantment of the sea dance was great. And then honestly, the power of love, like the music in this movie and in this entire franchise is awesome. Which is great because this is not a John Williams movie. So it's awesome that it's someone else doing the score and the soundtrack for this, which I just think is really fun. Yeah. What else did we miss from the first one that we should cover? I mean, that's the majority of it is really that it just sets up. As we said, it plays
Doc
with
had
time,
to find a new
clocks.
way.
Yep.
Yeah, so they go back in time and it's out of fuel. But the fuel that Doc in 1985 used was plutonium, and he runs out of that. So they have to figure out a different way to get the time machine to work again, so that they know there is a big storm coming where the clock tower famously gets struck by lightning. So what they do essentially is hook up a lightning rod to the clock tower so it'll juice the car and go back, to have the power to go back, because there's not a readily available supply of plutonium. I mean, ever, but
Ever.
for anybody to steal it from in 1955.
Yeah.
And then when they jump into the second movie, you see that now instead of needing plutonium, he's using compost to fuel the car. And then in the third movie, the car gets a gas leak, but there's no readily available gasoline in the wild wild west.
Yeah.
So they use a steam engine train or a coal engine train to push
the car. Yeah.
the car fast enough on the tracks to get up to 88 miles an hour. It has to always go 88 miles an hour to be fast enough to go through time.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the third movie, Doc comes back and he made a new time machine, even though he made Marty destroy the time machine, which Marty did entirely by accident or by fate, as it were. But he comes back and he made a steam engine locomotive time machine. So I like seeing all the different types of technology that they use and how, like, in each movie, like, one of the common tropes is they have to figure out how to get the time machine to work in the different time periods with what's available.
Science and invention, which we've talked about, like, in the Goonies and some of the other movies we've reviewed. Like, there's something about, I don't know, growing up in the 80s and 90s where there was just this idea of, like, I don't know, invention and science. And it was a very different, like, obviously none of it was software and computers. So, like, I don't know, there's something geeky about just getting to build things and make things work for it to feel really possible. I want to call out this comment because I think this is a really valid statement that I did not immediately notice. So thanks, Kathy, for bringing this up. Kathy says the Chuck Berry joke always hit weird considering the number of white artists appropriated black music. To flip the script may have been funny, but culturally insensitive. Yeah, it's a really I think that's a really valid point. In the first movie she's talking about. Yeah, which I think is I
did like that it was a black band. And did they not mention that, like, no, I'm mixing that up with something else where I was like, well, the black bands gave us rock and roll. They invented rock and roll.
Yeah,
they
but it was
the whole world with rock and roll, but it wasn't mentioned in this
Michael
movie.
J. Fox character
that played the song.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shame that it's like though in Marty's timeline, it was always Chuck Berry's song, and he's just like, this is the best rock and roll song of all time, so I'm going to play it. But it kind of almost attributes it to Marty as opposed to Chuck, which is, that's stupid. Yeah.
Josh says, I love how Huey Lewis is one of the judges at the beginning of the first movie and was singing The Power of Love over the previous scene. Yeah, I like it. It does really tie together nicely, which I think is great. All right, I want to jump into part two because we have a lot of movies to cover in a short amount of time. So I think you and I, like, what we love about part two is that it's like the predictions over whether or not these things would come to pass in 2015. And now obviously we're sitting here in 2025 looking back and laughing about all of it. So let's go through what those things are, right? So hoverboards, which we did not get, which such a bummer. And like, I
mean, we like quote unquote had hoverboards, not that hoverboard. We did not have this specific function.
Yeah.
So it didn't count.
So no on hoverboards. I'm not counting.
And the ones that did exist blew up and burnt children.
No good on hoverboards. We don't have self-lacing Nikes or the like coats that either like dry themselves or like seal, like make themselves immediately fit to your body, which is a huge bummer. There's no flying cars. We were all told we would have, I mean, the Jetsons told us we would have flying cars, and we still do not have flying cars, which is a huge bummer. Yeah. What else were there? Video phone calls, though, were there.
Video calls, we had that.
Yeah. Pepsi Perfect, not so much.
Definitely we had Zoom. Pepsi Perfect. Did we ever have that? No.
I don't think Pepsi Perfect ever existed, but I also, like you, did not grow up in the United States, so maybe it did. Maybe. Fingerprint door locks.
Not huge.
We have fingerprint door locks, so hey, we got a couple of them.
Not did we? I don't think we had those in 20. Well, we might have had them in
Yeah, I don't
2015,
know
but
about
not in common
2015.
use.
I guess
Mind you, in their 2015, they still had fax machines.
they did.
I say that like we don't have still have fax machines. We still have analog fax machines, but that's like a Quebec problem. They don't understand that a digital fax line can also be secure. So it's like, let's still use facsimile analog style. God almighty, it creates no shortage of problems.
Pointing out that if we had flying cars, there would be a lot of building collisions. Yeah, maybe flying cars wouldn't be such a great idea.
Yeah, I don't trust people enough. Like now
valid.
we've lived a couple of interesting years recently that definitely prove that it's too short of a period of time between 85 to 2015 to get people ready for flying cars.
Yeah.
It's a no. The restaurant was all automated. There were no servers. That's a thing.
That's a thing. Yep.
That is a thing.
Better technology than what they imagined. So that worked out.
Yes.
We should talk about their outfits because what I absolutely loved about this movie is that apparently everyone in the 80s thought that clothing and like, I don't know, I guess clothing in general in 2015 would be like a weirder, cooler version of the 80s. It was like instead of one tie, they'll wear two ties next to each other with bright patterns. And like it was just
I mean,
like
mind you,
very
we kind
80s, but somehow way more over the top than normal 80s stuff.
we did kind of do that in the aughts when people were layering polo shirts. So you'd have
True.
like 3 to 5 collars.
True.
That was such a douchey look.
We did that. Oh, we read about the pizza rehydrating.
yeah.
That was pretty cool. We don't really have that.
We don't
exactly.
quite have we don't have that in practice.
Yeah.
It did kind of remind me of army rations. Not that I've had army rations, but I've seen military rations where it looks like the package is like this big and then you take everything out and hydrate stuff and it,
Yeah.
it's a bill.
Charles pointing out that leather jackets are big today, though. So yeah, that's true. The leather jackets were big. That is true. Okay, so Paul, I think this comment is about the second one. The closing scenes of the first movie were reshot as the opening scenes of the second movie. Yep. So several changes were made.
Yeah, the
especially
actress
in Christopher
changed.
Lloyd's delivery of his lines. Yeah, and the other thing is, Crispin Glover refused to be in the sequels of these movies. So his character, Marty's dad, is dead in this one, which is fine. It's not like he needed necessarily to be in 2 or 3, so that makes sense.
And Elizabeth Shue was in the second and the third movie, but it was somebody else in the first movie.
It was a different person in the first movie. Although again,
I do love Elizabeth
she's also
Shue,
way
though.
more a character in the second and third one, albeit she's like passed out.
Claudia
for most of it,
Wells.
Yeah. So you had Claudia Wells in the first one, who has almost no role. And then the second and third one, Jennifer has a little bit more of a role.
Yeah. In the second.
I do love that they like, so the thing, in the first movie, Doc is like, we need to be really careful of the time continuum. We can't you can't mess around with anything. You can't we need to be super careful. And then it all goes to hell and they do their best to solve it. Whereas in the second movie, Doc is like, well, I was in the future and I noticed that these bad things happened to your kids, so we need to go back and fix it, which is a complete violation of messing around.
But then he does also say you can't grab the sports almanac to see what all the bets were. Like you have to leave that in the future. Like you can't mess with it.
Yeah,
even
but he's
though
fine with
I brought you here to mess with it.
I brought you here to mess with it. And then in the third one, justifiably, they're like, they figure out that Doc has died in the past where he is. So they need to go back to the past to save him. So it's like, it is fine to mess with time if it's like to the benefit, to the either jail or life benefit of the main characters, but apparently not for profit, which is, I guess,
question
fair.
I have is if Doc in the third one.
Oh, I'm willing to bet I had the same question you. Go ahead. If Doc in the third one.
If he dies in 1885.
Yes.
Who is that in 1955 with Marty?
I had that same question because I can't remember because again, I just rewatched them all literally back to back. But in one of the movies, I can't remember if it was the first or the second, when things are getting messed up, like they look at like the photo and the photo is like erasing, and then it was the first one.
Yeah.
And then he like Marty looks at his hand, and
They
his
do that
hand
in
is
all
literally
three.
erasing. So yeah, I
Yeah.
felt the same way. So like let's do some math again. Maybe
No, but this is a gravestone.
yeah.
Like they're looking at a photograph of a gravestone.
Yeah.
They go and they see the gravestone is in the graveyard. No, they go to see his dad, but they see a photo of Doc's
Yeah.
grave. So he's in the ground.
Yeah.
So who's there in 55?
Well, let's do the time math together.
I don't know. This math is definitely not mathing.
Well, which it was the Doc from which place?
85 Doc died in
85 Doc ended up back. No, was it 55 Doc that goes back?
No, 85 Doc died in 1885.
85 Doc ends up going back in time and lives in back and is in 1885 and then dies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and 1950s Doc is just there and doesn't know Marty
Yeah.
and doesn't know. Yeah.
So 1955 Doc then wouldn't exist. Yeah, I had the same question and I was trying to look up.
Yeah.
Yes, George is
It's
saying.
a wee plot hole, just a wee small plot hole. It's fine because they save them.
Yeah, because they
okay.
also mess.
We could say it's within the hour.
In the third
he
one,
goes back to before he dies, so there's that.
But he never would have existed in that moment anyway. So
No, he would not have. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
And Marty prevents his death in the third movie. So yeah. I don't fully know, but I had the same thought. And then they screw things up with Clara, which then makes it okay.
Well, he stays with Clara twice.
Yeah, but she would, had Doc not been there, she would have died. So then that makes it okay for her to like go to the future with Doc because her timeline would have ended at that point. Anyway.
It would have been different
So
anyways.
she
was supposed
to be in that timeline.
be on a runaway horse and fall into a cliff and die, which they called Clayton Canyon after Clara Clayton, which like that's dark.
Yeah. And Jake
and
is
Marty's
pointing this
like,
out.
yeah, we all know about it.
I did notice this one, Jake, but I don't think I noticed it originally. Michael J. Fox played Marty's daughter in the second movie because I was like,
yeah,
that she looks.
At first, I was like, she looks weird.
She looks weird.
There's something off about her.
No, it's just Marty. It's just Michael J. Fox. Yeah, I did.
So
I did like that.
So the parents, Leah Thompson and what's his name, Crispin, whatever.
Yeah.
Glover, they play both their old and young selves in the first two movies. Technically,
he was not. He was only in the first. He was in all three.
There was photographs of him in the second. He wasn't actually in it. Which was kind of fun. And Michael J. Fox always plays his other counterpart as well, and not just his counterpart, but his relatives as well.
Yeah,
he plays like his great uncle great grandfather. He plays his sister, he plays his son, so it's like kind of has all those little, like they play themselves at different ages.
So
that was fun. Doc is always the same.
Doc is always the same.
He looks the same in every movie.
There is a joke in the second movie where he gets some kind of face work done, and that's why he looks the same. But he peels it off. Because he put on a mask to make himself look older. Like he was older, and peels it off, but the mask is the same as what's underneath. Yeah, because he always. I love that. I was watching another movie, like a more recent movie with him earlier this week, and I was like, wow, he looks older, but like not by much. Like he is, in my mind, he is always like ambiguously in his like 70s. Like I don't know, or something.
He was in his 40s, Katie, in that movie. Yeah. In these movies, he was in his 40s.
But he just always looks like a mad scientist, and I will always love him as a result of these movies. There is just something absolutely fantastic about
he had such a great delivery, great comedic space, like physicality, great timing. He made the characters like very heartwarming, and he was kind of like a mentor, a father figure, and also somebody that Marty needed to help and save at this all at the same time.
Yeah,
So it
because
was
again,
fun.
Marty's parents are kind of terrible, so, so it's nice that
They were
Marty
in the
has Doc.
first movie,
Yeah.
both past and present, so 55 and 85, or I should say 85, then 55. But then when they're back in their
Yes.
new 85,
When they are
they seem
wealthy and
fantastic.
happy, they are
Yeah.
fine. They are fine. Which
Yeah.
I suppose checks out.
I
And
mean,
the
mind you,
siblings are better.
financial security does spark joy. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, it was
Financial
because
security
he.
is super important.
I suppose the message was that because the
Yeah.
father believed in himself and stood up for himself and became a different person, I
Yes.
suppose he was able
Yeah.
to stand
Yeah.
up for it.
And I mean, that was one of Marty's lessons too, is like you have to believe in yourself. Like, your dreams of becoming a guitarist can happen if you just believe that there are going to be, like, get excited for the yeses instead of accepting the nos, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have this question about, so again, if you're hanging out with us in this live studio audience, I think there's a few of us here. Definitely let us know if you have a favorite, and then why, what makes your favorite. And I'm going to ask you, Nat. So what was your favorite as a kid, and is it the same favorite now out of all three of them, or did it change?
I don't know. I thought it was the
Pass.
second. I thought it was the second, but then I remembered in rewatching it how much I didn't like the second
Okay,
one because
okay.
Biff was just way too evil. Even when I was a kid, it made me very uncomfortable and I didn't
Biff
like
is
it at
biffing,
all.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm like, Maleficent is super evil, loved her as a kid. Biff, don't like him. Gives me the creeps, don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Um, so the first one I think was always my favorite, and I think it still is.
Okay. All right. That holds up.
Yeah. And I think it's just because it's like the initial chemistry, and the movie predominantly is surrounds Doc and Marty,
Yep.
whereas the other ones have more interactions of them apart than together.
That's
And
a really
I
good point.
preferred them together, like, because their chemistry was really good. The way they rebutted off each other and their banter was great. And
Yeah.
there was less, it was more split up, and I possibly less of it in the other two movies.
That's
Though
a
I
really
did like
good
that Doc
point.
got a happy ending. That made me very happy
I
in the
think
third one.
I was going to
Yeah.
say they are together a decent
Well,
amount
happy
in
ending.
the
Nuclear?
third, but Doc also has his
Yeah.
own storyline in the third. So I do think I
Yeah.
think your point is super valid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trell is saying that his favorite is the second because they actually go to the future. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It is true. This movie. So actually, this is a really good point too. So I have another screenshot, but don't worry if you're listening. I'll read it out loud. I thought this was hilarious as a fun fact. Oh, whoops. I pressed the wrong button. So this movie was supposed to be titled something completely different. Sorry, I'll cover up myself here. So,
It's okay.
so this says, if you can't see it or you're listening, so there was a letter that went to Mr. Steven Spielberg about the title of this movie. And so it says, although I believe that the present draft is terrific and I marvel at the improvements that have been made from the Columbia, quote unquote, version, I continue to believe that the title leaves much to be desired. There are a number of reasons why I found the title to be less than wonderful, but my primary concern is that it appears to make the picture a genre picture. I think the script and hopefully the film deserves a better title. Now that I have buttered you up, I would suggest that we consider the title Spaceman from Pluto, which, let's just take a second at how terrible that title is. Spaceman.
Why is he from Pluto?
From Pluto. Well, he has reasons, Nat. He goes on to say, underpinning these suggestions are the following thoughts. Modify the dialogue on page 35 so that Sherman calls Marty a spaceman from Pluto. So we could add that in. And then number 2, he says, modify Marty's dialogue on page 77 so that he identifies himself as a spaceman from the planet Pluto instead of Darth Vader from Vulcan. And then point number 3.
It ain't a planet anymore.
I know, yeah. Would have made it way dated.
Actually, it might be a planet again. I'm not sure. I think they've fluctuated back to it, but whatever. Poor Pluto.
And then number 3 says, change the title of the book written by George and referred to on page 130 from A Match Made in Space to A Spaceman from Pluto. Obviously, you get the idea. I'm sure that there will be those who will argue that the movie will appear to the audience to be a cheap, old-fashioned sci-fi flick. Nonsense. I think it's the kind of title that has heat, originality, and projects fun. Most importantly, I think it
How
avoids
old was
the
the guy who
feeling
wrote this?
of a genre time travel movie.
Yeah.
I just like absolutely love that. And I love even more that Steven Spielberg was like, with respect, no, thank you. Also, no.
Like, that was not a great suggestion.
No.
Who do you think you are? I'm like, who do you think you are to make that suggestion? What, a producer probably? I would imagine.
No, he was. All right, let me open it up now that I've messed it all up. From Sid Sheinberg. I'm gonna guess he was a producer. So yeah, you might be right. And it was copied to Bob Zemeckis and Bob Gale, and it was addressed to Steven Spielberg. It's a brilliantly written
I'm glad
letter.
they didn't listen to that.
I will say, as a writer, I love the old timiness of that letter and the fact that it was a letter typed on a typewriter. But as a
I'm
movie
like,
person,
how old was that guy? Like, he grew up in the 50s. That's why he wanted his space, or 50s, 60s. He wanted like one of those, like, he was thinking of his childhood and how much he enjoyed those old like talk radio programs, with the space cowboy, spaghetti westerns.
I do love that it goes from, like, it has the kind of alien connection vibes in the first one, and then we have that kind of bridge futuristic movie in the second one, and then the third goes back in time to the Wild Wild West. Again, like, I think,
well, but they're talking about
carries.
Jules Verne in the third one, and stargazing and astronomy and all of that. So it all ties into space in all of them.
It does, but that's why it's funny. When I was a kid, like, the title, I guess when I was a teen, let's say when I was a teen, the title Back to the Future, I was like, well, that's stupid, because of the first movie, they don't go back to the future, they're going to the past. But then they're constantly throughout the series bouncing. Well, they're in the past, and then they have to go back to the future. So there is, I think the title works in its kind of vagueness and works for the trilogy. Yeah. Like, and
it makes it not strictly a space genre. It doesn't pigeonhole it, because it's not super clear. It's a little confusing. It keeps the genre more open, because really it's a kid's movie. That's it. Like, it uses time travel as a plot device.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not specifically about some teen that gets roped up into some madcap space travel adventures with an astronaut, like.
Oh, Josh is
I don't even know if he's an astrophysicist.
Sid was the president of Universal. Thank you, Josh. Yeah, so he was a bigwig, and the fact that Steven Spielberg
really
was
big.
Like, with respect, no.
Like, Sid was allowed to have
those opinions.
But I'm glad they didn't follow it. Poor guy.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're near the end, so I want to do some lightning round questions. Are you ready for some lightning round questions?
Wait, what's your favorite scene in the third movie? That's your favorite movie. What's your favorite bit?
I think for me, the third movie, here, I will lay them all out in order so that you can understand my perspective. So the first movie I love because it sets up the characters and the story. And I think obviously without the first movie, there would be no third movie. It wouldn't make any sense. So I do love the two bookends. In rewatching it, the second one is the bridge movie that really actually does a pretty effective job of like connecting the two and creating this world where it's like they're going back and forth in time and you don't know what's gonna happen or where they're gonna end up. It has that kind of adventure feel. The third movie, to me, and I think why I liked it then and why I still like it now, is it's a little bit more of a traditional movie. So like they spend the mass majority of the movie, unlike 2, they spend the majority of the movie in the past, and and I love that it has like a backstory for Doc, not a backstory, but like more of a story for Doc. I love that there's a love story.
Fleshed out more, yeah.
I think like him getting this like story that explains things is great. I like that there's no, I don't like Biff. I understand he serves a purpose, but I like that there's no Biff in it. And the Biff equivalent in this movie is like, makes sense in the genre.
Treated like a villain.
Yeah. It makes sense in the genre. Like even the sheriff is like, don't mess around. I'll take you out if you mess with it. And I don't know. it beautifully plays into the genre as like a kid version of a Western, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah, I like that there's a love story. I like that there's like a good connection between the characters, and that there's something about so what the second movie was missing for me that the first had, and I think the third nails. So the first movie, they were stuck in the past and they're like, okay, what do we do? But it was really obvious from the beginning that it would involve the clock tower, right? It's like the clock tower and it's lightning. And that part is pretty quick at the end. It's like this, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to do this. And like, now it works out and they almost miss it, but they're clearly going to make it. Whereas in the third one, it's like this whole thing where they're like, all right, we're really screwed. Like, what are we going to do? Like, I think maybe it could be a train. How is that going to work? And like, you're not exactly sure.
Trains
like,
don't go fast enough.
trains don't go fast enough. Like, is it actually going to work out? And then you have this like moment where it's like, oh, do you want it to work out because you really like this character of Clara, and like she's not even supposed to be in this timeline. She was supposed to be dead. Like, it has, I think, a longer resolution time period where you're just not exactly sure how it's all going to work out. And I really like that part. I also, like you said, I love Mary Steenburgen. She's just awesome.
Yes.
And
I love her.
She's wonderful in this because she's so crazy. Like, it's this like moment of like, she immediately finds him, she falls in love with him, which is like completely over the top, like love at first sight, which sure. And then she like is gonna leave. He tells her that it's a time machine, and she's like, "You're making fun of me. I'm out of here," which is a completely realistic answer. And then she's on the train and like overhears this conversation, realizing
she's like, oh no, it is real.
And she's like, oh no, it must be it, like, and I love it, that's the reaction, oh no, it must be real. And she's like, I'm off the train. And then she like legit like takes her horse and just chases down a train, not having any idea what they're doing or
hops on.
They're like clearly like stealing a train or doing some kind of illegal shenanigans. And she's just like, nah, I'm all in. I'm all, and like, and the train has like crazy colored smoke going out of it because of science. And like, and then she's like falling off the train and the hoverboard comes back in. Like, I don't know. There's something about the over the top chaotic ridiculousness of the end of that movie that I just love. And then it finishes with the DeLorean being decimated. So it's like, no more movies. Fuck you. And then, the train comes in and you're like, oh, train, way cooler than a DeLorean. And I don't know, from start to finish.
More spacious.
I just really love it. And he's got a family and he's happy and they
more conspicuous.
Yeah. I did love it from start to finish, really.
Yeah. I did love in the third one where Marty, or Clint Eastwood, as it were, he gives the name Clint Eastwood as his alias. Yep. And everybody's like, that's a ridiculous name. Like, everybody back in the Western times, like, what?
Yeah. Or his outfit. His outfit is completely preposterous.
Which, okay, the outfit was out of hand. At first it was like, man, the 80s really didn't have a handle on Western. And I'm like, wait, no, it was 1950s Doc who dressed him up. Like, he was from the 80s.
It's got the atomic, like, symbol, like, on the, like, the shoulder. Like, it's so fun. Like, I would love to own that outfit.
Ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous. He would be just straight up killed. Like,
So my favorite part is he gets challenged to a duel after breakfast with Mad Dog.
Yep.
And he gets shot. It looks like he goes, but he's wearing
like a stove.
The plate, like the door from a cast iron stove. Yeah. And so it looked basically like, you know, an old timey
bulletproof vest.
Like, yeah, a bulletproof vest. And it's really funny because that makes me think of the real life the Kelly gang, the Ned Kelly gang in Australia, who were the first to wear body armor to rob a bank.
Yep.
Like, and they literally did it. So it was kind of like this very, very Western, and it was a huge Western legend that made this legend in the time of it that happened, like, circulated at the time. Like, it was like Buffalo Bill, but there was also Ned Kelly in Australia, you know, so it's like the American cowboy versus the Australian cowboys. And I like that sort of nod to real Western kind of history. Like, that was super cute. I really like that Ned Kelly nod.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, and I also love
the Ned Kelly gang. There's a great movie. Well, great. It's starring Heath Ledger and I think Orlando Bloom. It's kind of crazy, but it's really good. And if not, just like read about them. The Ned Kelly gang was so cool. The first like movie, quote unquote, ever made was the first thing like images captured on film, I think, was of the Ned Kelly gang getting arrested.
Perfect.
And it was like a movie that got like they actually like shipped it around the world so people could watch this like on film was like a true crime series.
Yeah.
First movie. It's so good.
All right,
But
my
yeah.
last statement, and then I will back down because I know everyone is like, no, part one, you're crazy, Katie. But the last thing I will say about part three is, not equally, I do love part one as well. But the last thing I will say is that I think like Marty's family is also way cooler in three. Like his like I guess great grandfather. Like I love the Irish
Seamus.
immigrants that are there, and I love that like they're like
Which
very no nonsense. Like they're like, nope, like
okay,
this is the
but
right thing to do, and they're kind and generous, but they kind of stay out of the way. Like they're not shitty
yeah.
people, and I really
Okay,
and I
but
like
another
that.
plot hole. Why? So this is the McFlys, okay? So his great grandfather is the baby, William.
Yeah,
So his great great grandfather is Seamus,
yeah,
also played by Michael J.
yeah,
Fox. But his great great grandmother, played by Leah Thompson, who also plays his mother.
yeah.
Why does his why does she look like his maternal side of the family if it's from his paternal side of the family? You know, like why is she like have they been inbreeding for
Yes.
centuries?
Yep.
Like
I did not
what
notice
is
that. So that's a
happening?
fair point. I did not notice that at all. I was just like, oh, it's fun. I like Leah Michelle.
But if
Or
you
Leah
want to
Thomas. Yeah.
romanticize it, it's like, well, you know, like they were always meant to be, right? So, like in any timeline, his parents would get together.
Yes. But you're right. Also gross.
Also, like, why does his like maternal great grandmother look like his mother? Paternal. Anyways, whatever. Whatever.
All right. Well, we're a little over time, so if you're still hanging out with us live,
Yes.
definitely drop in what you would rate this trilogy. So from
Yeah.
1 DeLorean to 5 DeLoreans. Don't rate one though. You definitely want more than one. But from 1 to 5, potatoes or DeLoreans or stars. Let us know
Yeah.
what your rating is. We'll quickly ask each other while we're waiting for people's responses to come in. All right, Nat, what was the best Doc Brown invention?
Well, the flux capacitor,
Flux capacitor. I was convinced that
obviously.
was in a car for a long time because my dad had this joke that was just like, oh, it's probably the flux capacitor. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, wait,
That's
that's
because
not.
Doc says it all the time. Great
Doc-
Scott.
Yeah, that's a good one. I might be right there with you. All right, most iconic
Yeah.
quote. Probably
Great
Great
Scott.
Scott. Yeah. Yeah. All right, what year would you travel to if you had a DeLorean?
Uh, I don't know. I can't think of a great timeline. It would need to be a very controlled environment. There are too many variables. I would not travel. I would destroy the time machine.
You would destroy the time machine. I feel like I would go back.
Team Doc destroy the time machine. I don't know. I don't know. It's too stressful. I wouldn't want to ripple affect anything, and also like what timeline is safe to travel to, including this current one. Like I don't know. It's too stressful, dude.
I
No,
feel like I would
pass.
go back to the 1700s, but I would want to go to 1700s England, and I would want to be prepared so I had enough
Yeah.
money to pretend to be wealthy for a couple of days.
I would like to go see a play at the Globe
Yeah.
for
Oh yeah,
sure in real
1500s
life.
to see a play.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
I want to see the Bard live.
I'm with you. Jake
Give me
would go
some
to the
Shakespeare.
90s. I might go back to the 90s, but then you worry about seeing yourself, which, as we know, just does not
Yeah.
turn out well.
I mean, I had fun in the 90s, but I didn't have as much responsibility or
True.
stress.
All right, last question.
I mean, it was also a recession.
Last question. Coolest piece of future tech, future fake night 2015 tech.
I really want to say the hoverboard, but the jacket is so much more
The
practical.
jacket is pretty awesome. If we assume that it fits
Yeah.
automatically to your body and it like has the
It can
automatic
dry you
drying.
off, but I feel like that's just the tip of the iceberg on the features. Like in my mind, it's got to be like fire retardant, tear proof, stain proof. Like I feel
Yeah.
like it has more features. It's probably a multi-season jacket depending on the setting you have it
True.
on. Like in my mind, it's the
It's
jacket.
the jacket. All right. Jacket with a hoverboard is a close second. I do, but if it was a
Yeah,
hoverboard, I
yeah,
want
yeah.
that pink one.
No, it has to be that
It
exact
has to be that
one.
exact one, which
Don't mess with it.
was in
That
all
literal
three.
only one.
It was in all three movies
Yes.
and was a helpful plot device in all three movies. So yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
I want that exact one.
Well, Paul says 5. I'm counting them 5 cowboys. Thank you, Paul. Just for me. Josh says 5 DeLoreans, but only for the first movie because Josh hasn't rewatched the second or third in a little bit. But
Yeah.
definitely 5. What did you think, Nat?
I think as an overall trilogy, I'd give it a 3.5.
Ooh, a
3.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
When the bullies don't get their comeuppance, I don't like it. Like the bullies need to be punished. Biff, I have a beef. Okay.
Got a beef with Biff. That should be a T-shirt. We should make that into a T-shirt for the shop. I've got a beef with Biff. Well,
should.
I felt differently. I went with 5, but I can rearrange live here in the
okay.
show.
But you know, like I do love the first and I do love the second, and
Right.
I love elements of the first and the third, and I like elements of the second.
I
Yeah.
just think this is one of those movies that.
I could go 4.
All right, I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep it.
4
I'll
is
keep.
fine.
I'll keep 4.
We have 4
We'll
taters.
do
so
final. Yeah,
we're
final
good.
rating of 4 taters for the trilogy. I just think like this is not my
It works
favorite.
as one thing.
Yes.
It works as a trilogy.
This is not my favorite movie, so sorry for everyone whose favorite movie it is, but I have vast levels of respect for everyone whose favorite movie this is because I do think as a movie and as a series of movies, this was really brilliantly made and remains incredibly iconic and definitely stands the test of time. So
And as a kid,
clocks. Jake's got the 5 clocks.
Katie. I just heard that.
Oh,
Like
I love it.
that was brain delay, not
Yeah,
time delay.
yeah.
As a kid though, it inspired us to it gave us so much imagination play, right?
Yes,
Like
thinking about time travel and
it
the
was so much
invention.
fun
Yep.
as a kid
Yep.
to watch this movie and then to bring it into our own imagination
Yep.
and our own like imagination play, or like, you know, like when we would just play
Yep.
make believe, you know, like it was just so much fun to have this concept and this stepping stone for our own fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so it has a lot of value, and it's something that I think that, you know, kids should go back and watch,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
but also understand there is bad behavior in it, and there is
yeah.
bad behavior and some inappropriate topics and racism and yeah, that was one thing I was nervous watching the third one, is like, because as Kathy pointed out, there's this sort of blind spot but actual racism with the Chuck Berry thing
Mm-hmm.
that people don't necessarily, that white people don't necessarily see. But it, like, again, like as she pointed out, I'm like, yeah, it did give me, I'm like, I liked the scene, but also yes, it did make me feel like that's not right.
Yeah.
So going into the third one, I was worried. I was like, oh God, what are we going to have in this one? But it was okay. Like they didn't do anything. They romanticized the era. So
Yeah.
they made it seem shiny.
Yeah. They definitely romanticized the era. I agree.
Yeah. Which like
a
better
couple
than
last minute
something that's-
votes here for the jacket. Terrell says doesn't need the features, but I'll wear it. And Jake says power lace Nikes. The Nikes were pretty cool. I will say power lace Nikes were
pretty cool. I imagine if the jacket has all those features, the shoes must too.
The shoes must too. Well, we did it. We did all 3 movies. We pulled it off. We watched all 3 movies in one sitting, which means that we're nearing the ability to watch Titanic, which is coming up in a few weeks. But next week, we're going to bring Josh back on and we're going to talk about Batman Forever. So break out your Batman merch and all of the cool Batman stuff. And Josh has got all of his Batman stuff ready. So we're diving back into the world of Batman, and I'm going to hang out with Batman forever. But thanks to everyone for hanging out with us tonight. If you are listening or watching later, you can always join us most Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. We're the VHS Club. We're not that hard to find. And then if you want to swing by and leave us a voicemail or a review or see our movie list that we are very slowly working our way through, you can swing over to the VHSClubPod.com. That's the VHSClubPod.com. And we got some fun movies coming up, including, as I said, Titanic's on the list. Monty Python is on the list. We have
which
Batman
Monty Python?
Forever. Holy Grail, I think. I'm thinking
Okay.
Holy Grail.
Yeah, I think Holy Grail.
Yeah.
That was one of our favorites when we were kids.
I think Holy Grail. Although, who knows? We could get derailed. And then Goofy Movie, I'm gonna make. So I have some friends who like Goofy Movie is their thing.
I'm only realizing like recent years that the Goofy Movie has such a huge fan following.
Huge fan following.
I remember the movie. I saw it.
Yeah.
It was like, I remember enjoying it. I couldn't tell you what it's about. It didn't have much of an impact on me. So I'm very excited to dive into why people, because I mean, people are obsessed with this movie. I've heard that for some people it was their sexual awakening.
Oh, interesting. Well, I'm excited to.
I've heard that.
I won't say I'm happy. I'm excited to learn more about that. I'm excited to learn more about
just
that.
like they thought, he was cute.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
Yeah, like a little teen crush.
I think we'll do like a panel for that one. Bring on a few Disney people.
Yeah.
Josh is gonna come on.
We need some Disney people.
Yeah, we need some Disney people. I'm more Disney people than we are Disney people. And then the other one that I've been thinking we really need to do, but I haven't put on the list, but just to get everyone excited is, we need to do Final Destination because we're in the Final Destination space again. So we need to be
The marketing for the new movie that came out was just too much.
Between that and I Know What You Did Last Summer, I'm in a perfect Katie teenager horror space right now, and I'm really enjoying it. I have not seen, I don't even know if they're out yet, but I haven't seen either of those movies.
I mean, we get Devin Sawa to bring back Idle Hands.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Or Josh Hartnett and Sean Hattasey to do another faculty reunion.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
Well, everyone enjoy those moments and let us know what your favorite movies are. I know all of you have been sending in tons of recommendations, which I really appreciate. I promise we're working our way through so we can get more of you back on the show in a bit, but we're in a zone right now. So we'll let us get through our zone and then we'll bring people back on again. But I appreciate all of the feedback and the emails and posts. Yeah. And we will see you next week for Batman Forever. Great Scott.
Bye, guys.
Have a great night. We'll see you next time.
Walking the scene